Okay, so we'll just move on to briefly offering a conclusion before we'll have a brief Q&A and wrap up. So, aiming to avoid narrowing the conceptual scope of aesthetics in the city, the contributors were given the freedom to interpret both concepts. The intention was to leave open the possibility for radically different understandings and to draw attention to the contingencies shaping scholarly and popular, in the case of the city, understandings of these notions. In outlining their distinct approaches and how it helped them to make sense of the city, our sense is that collectively, contributors illustrate how aesthetics can be a vital concept through which we can collectively, critically consider the city. The conclusion of the book makes the argument that there are no one-size-fits-all approaches to aesthetics, but rather that the diversity of approaches, the neighbouring concepts, and various underpinning theoretical persuasions might enable fruitful and critically reflexive discussions of the city and how we might make sense of it within urban studies. We argue that aesthetics as a concept can unite otherwise disparate and occasionally oppositional parts of urban scholarship around the city.
So, as you just heard from the various videos, some contributors adopted an approach to aesthetics that was attuned to affect and movement, and these scholars tended to prioritise the onflow of urban sense-making, averting the trappings of any a priori notion of the city that might itself intrude upon how urban phenomena are understood. Other contributors in the volume highlighted the need to consider both sides of aesthetics: common sense aesthetics rooted in representation and imagination, and aesthesis, which considers the lived sensory encounters with the world. This dual approach is valuable for understanding the city, as it balances the risks of assuming fixed ideas about what the city is, while recognising the shared imaginaries that shape everyday urban life. In other chapters, there is a consideration for the power of aesthetics in shaping urban space through city branding and the imposition of sensory qualities like cleanliness, orderliness, or visual appeal, which are often tied to a city's identity and which work to govern urban space.
More specifically, we advocate an agonistic approach to aesthetics, especially when debating the role and significance of the city within urban thought. Agonism emphasizes constructive and polite disagreement between different positions. So it's not about combining different approaches like a jigsaw, but involves a self-conscious dialogue with and criticism of or opposition to the different intellectual, ethical, and political limits of various different perspectives on aesthetics. This approach avoids any definitive theorization of aesthetics and the city by extension, positioning them instead as subjects of ongoing reflexive and productive debate.
So in many ways then, an agonistic approach to aesthetics imparts and suggests a kind of kaleidoscopic understanding of the city, where radically different patterns pertaining to the city become knowable depending on our theoretical and epistemological persuasion and the various grounded empirical particularities in terms of how the city is sensed or made sensible. So as if seen through a kaleidoscope, the city becomes a complex and contingent construct that kind of shifts with each turn of perspective. And at the same time, it implies there's no master perspective on either aesthetics or the city.
At the same time, though, we caution that aesthetics is no silver bullet. This volume does not dismiss warnings against reifying the city. Processes of urbanization cannot be reduced to a single notion of the city, nor should it be naturalized or defined in absolute terms. Instead, we have aesthetics at the forefront of our minds when we consider the city. And if we do this, then it encourages critical questions around how we experience them, how we perceive them, and how we engage in them, without distilling urban processes to them.
So, inspired by both the book's contributors, but also beyond the edited collection, we propose in the conclusion 6 interrelated directions for future research on aesthetics and the city. So the first of those is to explore creative, mobile and participatory methods. Such approaches, we feel, align with aesthetic inquiry by engaging the sensory and affective dimensions of urban life and indeed city experience. The second area for development is to experiment with how research is presented. So how we represent cities in our research can actively shape how cities are understood, highlighting dominant sense-making practices and opening space for alternative interpretations. The third point, which we highlight as an area for further potential research, is to connect aesthetics with transformative urban agendas. So aligning aesthetic thought with fields pursuing emancipation or justice, such as feminism, post-colonialism, or queer and disability studies, can help to redefine what cities should include or permit, and foster new common sense, if you like, on the right to various injustices.
Fourth is to embrace the relation between the more than human and aesthetics. Highlighting the interconnections between living and non-living entities, this approach moves beyond human perception to broader ecological and multi-species understandings of the city. Fifth is to investigate aesthetics and negativity. Here, negativity refers not just to pessimism, but also to absences, exclusions, and non-existences. Aesthetic inquiry can reveal the blind spots and exclusions in common sense understandings of the city, linking these to power dynamics and lived experience. And sixth is to value diversity over uniformity. As we tried to argue, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to aesthetics. Rather, it is the diversity of aesthetic approaches, related concepts, and theoretical frameworks that foster rich, critically reflexive dialogue and how the city is made sense of within urban studies. So that is everything from Amy and I at this point, and thank you for listening for so long.